To build $150,000 of passive income through strategic property investing. That's exactly what we're going to cover in this session. And I know, sounds a little crazy, sounds a little wild. How can you achieve $150,000 of passive income in under 10 years? In fact, it's possible. If you have a chat with any property investor that's been investing for the past 10 years, it sounds crazy at the beginning, but it's actually pretty achievable. This session is all about that. Jef and I, we got no guest, it's Jef and I unpacking the Oz property portfolio. We're building a property portfolio in public to $150,000. We've made 4 purchases and they are valued at 2-point-something million already. Let me just get the direct number for you. 2.586 is what we purchased them for, and they're already valued at $3 million because we've been strategically purchasing them and making it happen. This session is not about the portfolio, but how we would achieve $150,000 in just 10 years. We're doing it in public and showing you how to do it, and then we are showing you what we could potentially do if we were going to try and achieve that as fast as possible without developments, without commercial property. So it's full residential portfolio. So we dive deep into all of that. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jef Miles, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment community. We've got 80,000 property investors in there, and each week we interview top property experts. This week, we are the top property experts, and we unpack the session to how to get to $150,000 in passive income. So it's really good. I really enjoyed this session. Jef's a smart dude. We run through how our renovation is going because that's a part of our portfolio. We then run through all of the strategic ways that we would go about it. We end up purchasing 6 properties. That's the goal. We then potentially may sell some of them. But anyway, watch the session. You're going to enjoy. See you soon.
And we are live on Oz Property Investors, live and late. We bring the big names and we have the big financial freedom fund. Jeez, I think I was too excited there, Joe. Mate, tonight's going to be a big session and we'll introduce Joe and get to that. But I wanted to say, so financial freedom in 10 years, it is a huge task. And I wanted to throw some developing in there, but Joe said, no, reel it back a little bit, Jef. There will be time to talk development. So we are going to give you the nuts and bolts as to how to actually do it deal by deal, brick by brick, and talk to what that looks like and the numbers. So stay tuned. We're going to talk to one of the hottest spots in Australia. If you watched our last live, you'll know that I said it is going to be the best for capital growth across the board in 2025. And I think it's probably on track as well. So not controversial so stay tuned for that. But first, Joe, how are you going?
I'm fantastic, mate. I'm ready. I'm ready for this one. This title, you love a bloody clickbait title. And the thing is with a clickbait title, you got to deliver. So that's what I'm keen to unpack, because financial freedom in 10 years, it's funny because we asked the question, is it actually possible to get financially free in 10 years? And a lot of the people that have been in this group for 4 or 5 years started to pipe up and they're like, well, actually, I've done it in 6. I've actually done it in 5. Actually, I've done it in 7. So this whole 10-year thing, it's a long, 10 years is a long time, but 10 years ago, you were, 23 or whatever it was, or you were 33 before or 43. And how fast did that 10-year period go? So the sooner that you get started, and that's one of the things actually with compound growth, the sooner that you get started, the better. So the longer that you wait, the more leverage that you're losing and the more compound interest that you're losing. But anyway, we'll crack onto that. How are you, Jef?
No, really well. And thanks to we unpacked you dove deep into the spreadsheet, and I was preparing something that I felt was probably too complicated. So you just brought it back to foundations and fundamentals. So that's what was So I'm going really well, mate. Going to be back out and running soon. I just had a bit of a calf strain. Which I'm like, what the heck? Like, how does this They said they're some of the biggest calves I've ever seen. So if you've ever seen me in person, check out, they're like this. They had this work experience kid in there. It's like, whoa, your calves are huge. I was like, whoa, okay, cool, man. All right. But anyway, no, we're talking property here. So that's literally an insight as to what my days, day in, day out look like. But no, so if you don't know who Joe is, he is one half of Oz Property Investors. But you have over 15 years of sales, research, negotiation with prop tech, I'm going to call it, prop and legal tech. You are an investor with a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. We're talking about the numbers for 4 of the Oz property. And we're like, whoa, that's an interesting thing. You've always been passionate about property. First, you want to be a real estate agent. You land on becoming the co-founder of Oz Property. Now, the largest property investment community online. Now, Level Up Property as well, and the founder of Property Principles Buyers Agency, the crown and the jewel. So yeah, that's you. What about Jef?
Bloody fantastic breakdown and introduction to who I am. And sorry for the people that do know who Jef and Joe are, that you are going to have to suffer through the next 30 seconds of me breaking down young Jef Miles. So as you guys know, and if you do not, Jef Miles is a very successful property investor in his own right. He has done property developments, renovations, subdivisions, all the good stuff that you would want to be doing. Previous to this, he actually used to work, was it the ATO that you used to work at? Local government where you were...
We don't talk about the ATO, but no. So yeah, I've worked at local, federal government, but also worked for some investment banks as well. So all those fun, loved sort of companies and organizations in Australia, Joe.
So we worked risk and compliance for some of the for a big 4 bank as well. So he's not just go out there gung ho and go risk the biscuit. You've got to also be a little bit more strategic. And then in a past life was a mortgage broker settling $20 million worth of loans. So quite the dynamic duo here. A little different, 2 very different backgrounds actually. Now that I think about it, we are 2 very different people. It's worked. People love it. So let's give them what they want.
Let's do it. Before that, though, I'm just going to throw this up straight away.
Oh, yeah.
This information is general in nature, not taking into account your personal needs or objectives. So we're not liable for any of this stuff. So, but just, because of course we're going to be talking to we're going to talk about how to be financially free in 10 years. So, but Joe, first come off the rank. Stay tuned for that. But I wanted for us to give a breakdown as to what's happened in the Oz property portfolio, because exciting things are happening. Equity is growing. Rates are getting reduced and renovations are getting done. So tell us all about it.
Mate, let's chat to it. So let's give a little bit of background for the people that don't know. Jef and I are successful property investors in our own right. We have bought our own investment properties. We both have multi-million-dollar property portfolios aside of this. What we wanted to do was to build a property portfolio in public and give everybody access to everything. Give you the numbers, give you the stats, give you the renovations, give you everything so that you can build this property along it. Our portfolio is your portfolio, except we own it. So you don't own it, but you got to come along for the ride. This is what I wish I had. And we did actually have this when we were growing up in the property space with one of the other property podcast things. And I wanted to bring it back. I wanted to revive it. So our goal is to build a passive income to $150,000 in the next 10 years. Now, we have so far kicked off the journey and we have bought 4 properties in the past 6 months. Well, we bought 4 properties in 6 months. It's now been like 7 or 8 months. June 2024 is when we kicked all of this off and we bought 4 properties. So how do you want to run this one, Jef? This is you created this slide, my man.
I did. I think I sort of, I just want to say, why don't we build? So why are we doing this? I think it was interesting. The reason why we decided to build it and then bring you along for the journey, which we're going to do this session, is because there's nothing better than doing something in public to give people the motivation, the inspiration. I did a post the other day. It's like, who here is financially free? Like, let's kind of start to build that community and just get excited, because we want to make at least 500 people financially free. So if you're excited about that, just come along for the ride, but let us know in the comments. Like, what is it that excites you about financial freedom? But go on to the next slide, Joe, and then we'll talk to the Melbourne deal that you just had an exciting update on.
So one of these purchases that we made, and I'm sure we'll get to the other one. So this is the 4th property. So this is the most recent property that we just bought. This needs a full-scale renovation. So it actually, like in the pictures, it actually looks half decent. Like if we zoom in a little bit here, I'll give you a bit of an update. Like that kitchen is absolutely fine. It's just the problem with this property is that a lot of the work that's needed is the unseen work. Like it's the stuff that you can't, you add, like you do a paint, that's going to add value, but you do the stumping, it doesn't add value. So that was the first cab off the rank. So we are in the depths of the renovation for this property right now. First cab off the rank was $15 $15,600 and something for a restumping. The floors were all uneven. Some of the stumps literally were just rotten away by moisture and water and corrosion over time, and literally hanging on to nothing. So when you stepped over the top of it, the wood would flex and people would be like, oh, this is gross. So when we did the pest and building, we negotiated $10,000 off. So if you see a stumping issue, like the way to think about property is every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. So this is a real renovation that is going on right now. And I might skip through a little bit. So one thing to mention is this is the bathroom that we had, right? Absolutely, looks absolutely fine.
Got that little shower attachment thing, the spaceship shower.
We called it the spaceship. We called it the spaceship. How fun is it? It's broken. So what does that mean? Well, the way that these guys, so this bathroom has been recently renovated. Not recently, probably in the early thousands. It was renovated. But the problem is they built the bathroom to fit this spaceship. So what does that mean? There's no fall in the tiles for water to run down. So if we installed a new shower to replace the spaceship, it wouldn't work because the fall wouldn't go into the plumbing correctly. So what happened is we removed the spaceship because the spaceship's broken and it's leaking everywhere. We take it away. Down the back of the tiles is all a massive crack throughout the entire place. So what we've had to now do is a full bathroom renovation on this sucker. The good thing is we plan to do this anyway. So I don't know if you can hear the words. You don't need to hear the words. But this is what it's looking like in its current state right now. This is what we're working with.
Jeez.
Yeah. So again, one other thing to mention. Look at that big dirty hole in the yellow tongue flooring. So what does that mean? Great. We now have to replace that. So don't go into a renovation without a budget in mind for what you need it without having extras on top. Add another 10% because things like this come up all the time. So speaking of quotes, these are the 3 quotes that we got on this renovation deal. The first one, $100,000, $98,846.
That's crazy.
The second one that we got, a little bit more reasonable, $63,000. But as you can see here, he's kind of estimating plumbing and he's estimating electrical, $63,000 plus the extra plumbing work. So you have to shop around. Like you can't just go with the first guy that you see. No, $69,000 including GST. So $70,000 plus probably another 10 for the plumbing. And these are real world quotes, guys. This is literally it. And then the final quote that we ended up going with, I had a chat with our stumper friend and I'm like, hey, Mr. Stumper Man, do you know anybody? And this is a great way to get access to great trades because he's now referred his friend and his friend has a great relationship with a plumber, a great relationship with an electrician, and he himself is a handyman and a painter. So this renovation, instead of it costing $100,000, has now only cost $55,000 plus that yellow tongue. So let's say $60,000. So we just got a 40% reduction in cost by shopping around. So I reckon that's a pretty sweet deal.
The tip that I love, Joe, you said ask. I love asking the pest and building person typically because that's even sort of you getting ahead of the game and getting that person out there. I love to sort of, I've found some absolute gold tradies and some not so great, but usually if the pest and building guy is suggesting them, usually they're generally good and similar to a property. I mean, I'm not sure if you found it also through property managers as well. That's how I like to. And of course, you have to understand you can't just go with one person just because of course they could be getting referrals and all that sort of good stuff. But no, it's just crazy to see that discrepancy in price. Like, and you just wonder how people think, 100,000. That's probably the F off kind of quote. It's like, oh yeah, like if we're going to do that job, I'm going to charge you an arm and a leg. Like, and if you proceed, then happy days. If you don't proceed, they're probably just too busy. They say, oh, I don't have to do that job. So it's a win-win either way for them, potentially, because it's just looking at the other two quotes, you're saying, yeah, 69 or 70,000 and 55, they seem a little bit more reasonable for the work that's been done to the place.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit more 69 plus the plumbing. But that's kind of when I got this quote, I was like, wow, this isn't. And now one of the things to mention of this deal, and I think we mentioned it from the get-go of when we purchased it, was that this renovation is not the $1 and getting $3 back. So what I'm about to go to is a slide. We purchased this property for $540,000. We then renegotiated the pest and building, and we got a discount of $10,000 based on the stumping issues and things like that. So we got a discount to $530,000. So we're paid $530,000 for this property, and the goal here is to convert, like when we had here, 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom. So we're going to convert it from this room here. Well, that is not actually that bedroom. No, it's not that room. It's the room off the kitchen. Yeah, here we go. So we're going to get this room off the kitchen here. We're going to wall this up, and it will just be a straight kitchen. We're going to remove that wood heater, replace some sheets in the ceiling because there's a bit of water damage from the roof, which we then got fixed up. And then we're going to put a wall up against the lounge room, and then that's going to create the 4th bedroom and be set up completely fine for a 4th bedroom. Now, I've already reached out to, I've already done that. That's already done. So we now have the 4th bedroom. I've reached out to RP Data, and RP Data says, Joe, you've got 4 bedrooms here. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So they have now updated that with the banks. And this is something that every investor, like, key takeaway from today, do this. If you learn anything from today, jump on the phone to your mortgage broker and have a chat with them and say, hey, interest rates just dropped. We want some discounts. Give us some money. So this is the valuation. Jef, do you want to talk to this one? I feel like I've done a lot of talking.
No, that's all right. I've been playing around with the slides a little bit, must admit. So what? Like, yes, it's great. You got a revaluation as to what it'll look like, and updated, and what that means for us.
So what? We paid $530,000 for this property. The valuation has come up at $645,000. So this is $530,000.
This is part of the way that you get to the financial freedom in 10 years. You need to probably add a bit of value in there along the way. But no, so that's
$115,000 of value increase. However, we do need to spend 65, 70 grand to get that. So I'm putting $1 in. This is what I wanted to point out. In this day and age of environment of renovations, you can't expect $3 back because of how expensive everything is. So we're putting in $70,000 and we get $115,000 back. That's all right. What's that? How much is that, Jef? A dollar in and
$1.85 to $1.90 roughly.
Still,
so it's good.
A good trade.
What that means is it gives you more equity to buy more. So this is stay tuned, because we are going to potentially buy, not tonight, probably won't buy a deal tonight unless you've got one you're about to put under contract. I haven't put anything under contract recently, personally. So potential resale value as well. So you're improving the property. The reno is there, so you're adding value to the next person going to take that on. If I'm honest, if I'm an owner-occupier moving to that, I'm not fussed. I'm not all excited by the spaceship. I'm going to move on to the next property that's somebody's already done the work, done the sweat equity. So therefore, you're going to have a bigger captive market when you resell that, whether that be to investor or you really want an owner-occupier to fall in love with this. Lower rates though as well. We're going to get a lower rate because we're going to get it below that 80% LVR, which with some lenders, that's the magic number where they start to say, well, okay, we don't need lenders mortgage insurance. So therefore we're happy to give you a bit of a discount because it's lower risk. And then you say, okay, rinse and repeat. You're now at the stage where there you go.
Well, that's the interesting thing of this deal, right? What we're saying to our investment savvy broker. Now, I could say, oh yeah, I thought of this as a great idea. No, I'm not that smart. I surround myself with very smart people and they come up with the smart things. They said, Joe, if you get your loan, we've been valued at $645,000. We used equity, which is 100% lend on this deal. So to get it back down, you've made $115,000. You need to drop the value by $16,900. If you put that cash money in the account, that will make it 80%. And that's going to then take it to that 80% LVR, which so smart because this was the original rate, 7.29%. We got it down to 6.4. That difference is $4,672.50 over 12 months. Just by one phone call to my super smart broker, I've saved we've saved $4,672, which is $390 a month. Ridiculous.
Which also can help the borrowing capacity, probably around that sort of 20 to not huge. We're not talking hundreds of thousands borrowing capacity, but it helps the cash flow, helps the borrowing capacity by somewhere between that 20 to 40K sort of mark. So, Joe, I think we're 20 minutes in. We haven't got, so that's why we've got too much
excitement.
Yeah, too much excitement around this. So let's talk about financial freedom in 10 years. So we're going to have some key criteria. So Joe let the cat out of the bag. We're aiming for 150. Personally, my number is double that. But 150 is a good chunk of change. And we'll talk to some of the assumptions we've got in there as well. What are the strategy considerations that you? I mean, I can talk this one, Joe. But what are the things that you think of when you're talking about strategy and building this 150K in 10 years?
Well, it comes down to the core three, right? Cash and equity on one hand, borrowing ability and serviceability, and then your portfolio cash flow. So that's what we need to balance here. For us, and I think it'll be pretty clear in this example, is capital growth is the most important thing. You need to be able to afford capital. You need to be able to afford to hold the capital growth. So don't go by buying Bondi. Don't be buying a Bondi unit because you think it's going to give you the best capital growth, but you need to balance it with what you can afford from a cash flow perspective. But what would you rather, an extra $50 in your bank account or $150,000 extra on top from an equity standpoint? Far better the capital growth, because that's what's going to then allow you to go into the next deal.
I love that somebody in the comments is talking about our interest rate. They said 4,600, done well from one phone call. Are you sure you used a phone and not a cricket bat? I mean, I don't typically go and take my cricket bat to the bank. I think
good.
that might lead to different implications, Dave. But no, it's well done. But no, and it's the loyalty tax. I was speaking to an investor the other day, and they were saying that their interest rate was 8%, and I was like, You're kidding me, right? I mean, they said I said, look, is that a trust or an SMSF that you're in? Because maybe it was a tough kind of deal. And they're like, no, stock standard sort of deal. And I was like, because they wanted to know what a good comparison rate was. And I said, okay, anything in the low sixes or high fives is fantastic for investment. And I just said, look, you have to you're costing yourself tens of thousands of dollars per year there based on the. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That almost like 0.9% on our $500,000 loan is $4,000. Yeah, so you do that across the portfolio, which we're going to do. We're going to be saving $4,000, $8,000, $6,000, $4,000. Like, it's stupid. You're just throwing money away by not thinking about these things. So stop trying to save money. Stop trying to. Yeah, there's a good question that's popped up there. Elijah, good to see you again, mate. When you did the re-stumping, did you have to redo every room that had tiles? Did you have any cracking issues? So the place needs a full repaint. So that would be a consideration from it, but there wasn't any extra crazy cracking. He took it slow. He did the stumps over a couple of days, and he said if we do it too fast, it will unsettle and crack. And if you just let it settle, I don't know. But there wasn't any more extra, like no tiles were cracked. We didn't see any cracked tiles. But yes, that is definitely a consideration. But there were some cracking that we need to patch and paint over. So that's why painting is generally always done last. Well, actually, carpet's done after that.
So yeah, if you have questions or comments on the way, people drop them in. We'll get to as many as we can, and I want to answer, and then we'll talk to what I think about when I hear strategy. But the benefit to go from a 3 to 4 bed, does this apply from a 4 to 5, or does it make it less appealing? You've actually got a slide in there, Joe, that may show. Do you want to show that slide? I don't know which number exactly it is. I think it's probably about number 20 or 17 or 18. Anyway, maybe we'll stop sharing the slides, otherwise you'll go through the whole pack Here we go. Look at that photo. You photoshopped that one. No, not that one. I'll tell you what number it is. But no, it is number. Let's go to this. Maybe I actually deleted it from the pack, from the slide. Yeah, I did. Sorry. So we don't have that. But what you want to do is if you jump on domain for a suburb. So might as well do it now, Joe. And I'll talk to this for for the benefit of Jez. So if you jump on the main, it actually shows you the difference between a 2-bed, a 3-bed, a 4-bed, and a 5-bed. So you'll actually be able to see the discrepancy there in the conversion. And then it's about understanding, well, what's actually in demand in the suburb as well. Because speaking to your expert property managers, there you go. So you can see in this particular example, where's this one, man?
This is Frankston. Yeah.
Frango. Love a good Frango. But yeah.
So 810,000. So what this person's saying in the comments is the benefit to go from 3 to 4. Does this apply to 4 to 5, or does it make it less appealing? So let's just have a look. This is where you jump on up domain. You can see here that 898. So let's just say 900 versus 810 for a 4 to 5 bedroom. So if you turned a 4 bedroom to 5 bedroom, you may get that extra. And then same with the 3 bedroom. There's $100,000 difference here, $105,000 difference, $106,000 of difference. Yeah. And then a 2-bed is even bigger. But you also need to look at the amount of volume of sales, right? So it's always tough to do. Yeah. Typically what I see, the biggest jumps is 2 to 3. Sorry, 3 to 4 is the biggest, and then 2 to 3 you can get lucky and get a good valuation, and then 4 to 5 it starts to lose its zhuzh and its appeal. Because
the thing that would concern me there about those 5-bedders, there's only 21 of them sold, so I'm not confident where there's less than 30 sales. Like 30 is just a statistically valid number typically. So you sort of start to say, okay, yes, what happens if there are 3 or 4 sales at that 1.1 million, and then there was a couple of sales at the 5-bedder at the 7 to 750 mark? You're sort of then gonna, your valuation might get a bit skewed. So where you've got the volume of sales for the typical asset for that area, you're starting to get a lot more confidence. I like to deal in give me as much probability as I can, rather than just relying on, there's 5 or 10 5-bedders and it's worth an extra 400K, but the bank in their valuation may just say, well, look, we're not confident with that. We're not comfortable with that. They might not give you that number. So just be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, 100%. There's a great question that's come up here. How easy is it to get to get deals like this these days? So to give you a bit of context, we bought this property. When did we buy it? 3 months ago? 2 months ago? 2 months ago.
December. I was at the Fleazy Christmas party, and you were saying to me, "Oh, Jeff, I think we might be buying a property." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Tell me more. Tell me about that."
We might actually be buying another one, to be honest. I've got another unit block that looks very appealing. Yeah, it might be a flip.
What about commercial? You have to get commercial.
We might get into commercial. We might not get into commercial. High yielding resi, and that's what this portfolio is all about. So how easy is it to get these deals? Like, I don't want to say easy. Nothing in life is easy that's worthwhile and valuable. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. But if you follow the right process, the right steps, the right tricks and tips, you'll be able to get this stuff. It's not rocket science, but you put a part-time effort in, you'll get a part-time result. That might actually lead in quite nicely to something else that this is more for people in the Oz property community. You guys are going to start to see Jef and I talking a lot about this thing called level up property. So what is level up property? Level up property is a course that Jef and I have created. We have spent our entire life, well, not our entire lives, the past decade in investing, and we are building a passive income of $150,000 in public for all of you guys, and we've put our life's work into a course. So any of you guys want to have access to this, you can check it out. You can see the incredible results. This person here, for instance, they made, what was it, 800,000? Yeah, just under $800,000 in under 3 years by the tips and tricks and things that we do. So the reason I'm flagging this now is expect to see this more in the community. Just like we've had sponsors. One of the controversial takes is, guys, you say you never promote anything. Like, you're not allowed to promote. No self-promotion. Well, this course is sponsoring the group. So yeah, create your own group and shut up.
No. Well, I was going to say, man, I mean, for me, what fuels me, I get probably 20 people these days, more and more, as you start to post more content. I don't know about you, but I get around 15 to 20 people reach out and ask me a question. I said, Joe, look, man, I can't, I want to keep adding value. And if, like, I'll answer as many of those DMs as I can. At the same time, I want to see people succeed. I can't spend my time purely just responding back to things. So I said, we need to do something about this. Is there an opportunity there where we could put something together? So this is, to be clear, this is not a straight BA course that is lead funneling into something else, because that was one of the objections. I said, well, yeah, okay. So the cost of the course is all disclosed on the website, yada, yada. But no, I think I want to get back into strategy. So, but thanks for flagging.
It's funny. You kind of made it sound like it was something that's been like, oh, we just thought about it and threw it up there. No, this is, I don't know if you can see it here. No, you can't. This is a photo that I took and sent it to Jef on the 11th of July, 2020. We have been working massively. And then, obviously the results that we've gotten for investors, everything that I know, everything that Jef knows is in this course so that people can go out there and do it. Yeah. So how easy it is to get these deals? You just need to take the right steps in the right process and to do it. But I don't want this to be a big sales pitch, bullshit thing.
But no, yeah, literally, I was doing this in the middle of COVID. Actually, I remember we were talking about it. But no, so strategy. So when I think strategy,
look at that. I think another great question. How do you get the past? What if I fuck this up regarding purchasing, renovation, costs, etc.? What do you reckon of that, Jef? What's the answer to that?
You're asking me the hard question. No, it's not. So for me, the way I think about it is, well, what is the cost of, worst case scenario? So in a lot of states, you can actually get not every state. So WA, you need to be particularly careful because there's no get out of jail free typically in WA in the standard REWA contract over there. In most states, you can, and of course, read the contract, get your solicitor conveyancer to review it. But what if I fuck this up? So in terms of purchasing reno costs, you want to get the pest and building done, and then they'll tell you what the extent of the damage is, what they feel. Get your quotes out there. Understand exactly what you. So the way Steve McKnight, want to acknowledge him because he's a big mentor of both. That's how we met, Joe. So he had this quote: "You got to name it and then number it and then num it." So name what are the things that are going to need doing. So number it. Put a number. If it's 50,000 to get the underpinning done. Look, underpinning is a significant undertaking. So I personally would be very cautious anything like that. And then num it. Say, okay, look, how do I feel about this? Worst case, if the cost flows out to 100, 150K, does the deal still stack? If it doesn't, move on. It's not worth it. But just be particularly careful in the state you're purchasing as well. So most states you can get that done, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, well, I also think he's saying more macro, like what if I mess this up regarding purchasing and finding the right property? You just have to follow a structured, systemized approach to property investing, believe it or not, like the course that we created. But anyway, I get too excited when it comes to talking about things. But no, you're right, 100%. Name it, number it, num it, move on. Our property this deal, we factored in $75,000 for the renovation. And I think we're about there. What was it? What was the quote was 55 plus the 16, and then there's probably going to be another.
And then 80. Was it 98,000? That person came in at.
But I mean, what we expect. I mean, they were just quotes that we got. I factored in 75,000. Cool. Okay, what are we doing here? What's this slide, Jef?
This is our assumption. So we're going to get crack on. I was going to talk strategy, but we'll just talk it for hours if we start talking that. So these are the kind of conversation we're having in the private mentoring community. Francis has asked a question about that, but we might address it towards the end. So I want to talk to the assumptions around this portfolio. So we said financial freedom in 10 years. So these are the kind of things that you need if you're not. So we've got an end portfolio value, and we will look at those numbers of 6 to 7 million if you kept all of them, of course. So you're looking at that's imposing. Like imagine getting that $6 to $7 million in 10 years. But yes, it sounds imposing, and you're not going to do it if you're on a 50 to 80K income. But what you can do if it's 10 years, in 15 years, 20 years, there is always, you just have to focus on your path. Maybe you have to take the slower lane. instead of the Autobahn, as Joe loves. We need a photo of Joe in some kind of fast car, but maybe not, because that's other people's stick. Debt paid out. So this is going to be, all the debt's going to be paid out. 6 property portfolio. We are going to be selling some, spoiler alert. And surprisingly, a property type is missing. Now, it might be a friend of ours who might not be too happy. So if he's watching tonight, he might spit his evening coffee out if he hasn't eaten coffee. We're also skipping buying the PPoR. So there is sacrifices. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is not, you're not going to do, it's hard. Look, you can do it with the PPoR, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. So we stress tested. This might be the best advice I've heard. There you go. Was that Jef or Joe? Who gave you the best advice? No. But so those are the assumptions, Joe. Property strategy. Okay. Talk to this one.
Oh, property strategy, guys, is easy. Where are you right now? What assets, liabilities, what things have you got? And then where do you want to end up? If you want to end up on $150,000 of passive income, you're going to have to create a bit of an idea. You're going to have to reverse engineer to be able to get there, which is exactly what we kind of cover off. So that is our portfolio strategy, 150,000 in passive in 10 years. And to be honest, spoiler alert on the property portfolio, right? We have 4 properties. Actually, I don't know. Do we cover them off again? Yeah. Okay. Why are we doing this, right? So we have
How are we doing this?
How are we doing this? Okay, well, I'll give you a high-level macro because I don't think that slide is actually the right thing. So I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm just going to throw some numbers at you, and it's going to feel really good. So first property that we purchased was $606,000. We turned a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom in Victoria to a $660,000. So that made us $54,000 in value increase, and that is at a 70% LVR. So we've increased the value by putting up a wall. The next one that we purchased was a $435,000 property in Townsville that we were going to subdivide 1 into 2 at some point in time. Now, you don't need, the thing is, people that are like, oh my gosh, I don't know about subdivision. Great. Just jump on the phone to a town planner and they'll have a conversation with you, chat to council, see if you can actually subdivide it, and then park it and forget about it. This house is an 800 square meter block, and it's very clear that you can have a split in it. So we bought that for $435,000. It is now on domain listed at $495,000 already in 6 months. Jef and I were chatting about it. It's probably more like 530, but whatever. Yeah. That's made $90,000, maybe $100,000 actually, almost in 9 months. The next one that we purchased was a block of units, which was $1,015,000. That is probably worth 1.3 now, to be honest. But we've left it here at 1.1. That's grown 185. So then the fourth one is this renovation deal that we're hoping. Well, actually, go back to what the bank says it's worth. The bank says it's worth 645. So I'm going to update our little thing here, 645,000. That means our value increase in 9 months has been $414,000 on this portfolio. So the purchase price was $2,586,000 and it's now worth $3 million. So that's the strategy. Just keep doing that. Keep buying good quality assets in good quality locations that are moving, and then add value to them if you can, and then hold and freeze the equity further down the line. These Victoria deals, now the renovation one can't be granny flatable, but the first Victoria one that we bought.
I'm still not sold on if I'm going to do a granny flat deal, just to cut across here a little bit there, Joe. If I'm going to do a granny flat deal at the moment in Victoria, it can be quite challenging. I'm not going to say impossible. It's just more around the perception of them. They only just recently opened them up. When I say recently, it was at the start of 2024. We had that session with Sophie Annapolitis, a gun property manager in Geelong, and she kind of said, because we said, hey, this is like bonza, like open up, like it's time the cash flow is going to flow in Victoria, like the rivers of the Yarra. I don't know, haven't been down there anyway. So, well, it's a major river flows through Melbourne, right, Joe? Sure. But no, sure. So I would say for me, the granny flat situation is probably most likely in Queensland, parts of, or most of New South Wales, and then WA. That's where there's a perception you can sort of granny flat. Victoria at the moment, I don't know. You might disagree with me, Joe, but I just wanted to sort of flag that one. I reckon in the next 3 to 5 years, As rents increase and they start to become more, people will say, look, this granny flat thing, it works, because as rental affordability becomes more challenging, granny flats may just become more of in vogue as well.
Yes, I think definitely granny flats. Well, look at Brisbane, look at Sydney. All of these places have granny flats that everyone just accepts. Like, I bet there's people that are on this live session now that live in a granny flat, but they rent one and they just live in it. It's good. It's fine. It works. So it's definitely becoming a norm, but in Victoria, it's definitely not the norm. But townhouses are becoming a lot more popular in these outer suburbs, and it's coming soon.
I wanted to I know we're at nearly 40 minutes show, so good old Brendan said, boys, can we talk to this last point? So everyone pushing rent investing, however, in a decreasing rate cycle, what do you see as a break point between buying a PPoR and rent vesting? It's a very I'm not concerned about giving advice here, but it's just more around, it's a very horses for courses kind of situation, because it comes down, ultimately, your PPoR debt versus rent. They're going to load up that debt because there's not rent attached to it. So I look at things purely mostly from a numbers perspective. Having said that, we did buy the PPoR.
I was going to say, Jeff, wait, where are you living right now? In a PPoR or not?
Yeah. But yeah, look, if you want to ask me, to me, it comes down to, well, how badly do you want to kick that goal based on your own circumstances in 10 to 15 years? Because Greg's, So let's go on, Joe. 10 years. Should we look at the table?
Okay, let's look at the table. Okay, essentially, guys, wrong one. What we're doing here is we're buying 6 properties in 6 years. That's what we're doing. We're going to acquire. Now, this is a fictitious property portfolio that we're buying right now, okay? This is not the Oz property portfolio that we've gone ahead and purchased already. We could run that, and to be honest, we actually could, if we went into the subdivision and development. What I didn't want to do was start getting tricky and being like, well, we subdivided this one off and
strata titled the unit block as well, which will...
strata subdivided the unit block. That's $500,000 of instant value that we create by doing that. So what we're going to do is buy 6 properties. So let's have a look at these. Let's have a look at these properties here. So we have property number 1, $600,000. Property number 2 in the second year, $500,000. Property number 3, $580,000. Property number 4, $750,000. Property number 5, $800,000, and property number 6, $1,015,000. That might look like a similar price to our unit block. So what does that actually mean from a rental side of things? Here are the yields of the portfolio. I'm trying to use this little orange square just so it doesn't distract from it all. So the first property, so in Victoria, you do need to, if you're buying in Victoria, you do need to be a little bit more cautious about the yields. But what we've got so far is 4.1% yield, 4.6, 4.3, 4.9, 9.8. That's a ridiculous number. 6.7. So as you can start to see is as we transition to more cash flowing assets in our portfolio, that's what it gives us. So this is what the property portfolio looks like overall. This is our fictitious one of how we would buy and hold an aggressive portfolio. So we buy this property portfolio. It's worth $4,305,000. What we're doing in this portfolio is in 10 years' time, it'll be worth nearly $7 million, growing at a 6.2% growth rate. Now, the Australian average over the past 30 years has been about 7.2%. So we are understating that by a full percentile point, right? The rent overall on the portfolio would be $4,935 a week, which is annually $256,620. So the bad side of all of this is there's debt attached to it. So we have debt on this portfolio that totals $3,605,000. So our LVR position on the start is 3,605 divided by 4,305 is 83%. So when we start this purchase, our loan to value ratio is 83%. And when we're finished with it, it will be 51%, which is actually a pretty interesting number. Anything to note on this one, Jeff?
Just the call out there, I suppose the LVR is going to chop and change throughout you're talking about once you've acquired, because over time, because property isn't going to grow in a linear fashion. So just because we've said, so you said 6.2 we use as the assertion for capital growth, didn't you? Because that's a full
What did you
percentage
say?
below.
Yeah, 6.2. Yeah.
Yeah, so just because it says it doesn't necessarily grow one, like we saw the property in Townsville, the subdivision one. I think that's done like over about sort of 16-17% already, and that's on less than a year. So you bought that at 440, depending if the bank valuation. Yeah, you're probably talking. Yeah, you're talking sort of 15 to 20%.
You're on 100
Or
grand, right?
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So what I wanted to call out as well is you're looking at that last property purchase of $1 million. So you're saying, how are you funded? Because you're probably going to need a deposit of around 200K roughly. So where are all these deposits coming from? I'm thinking through what the audience is kind of questioning. So this is, I suppose, this is an assumption that you sort of want at least a good wicket of 200 to 250. You're able to draw a little bit of equity here and there, which of course is going to increase the debt amount. So look, we've simplified the numbers. So of course, and you can actually plug the numbers in as well and sort of do your own numbers over different purchase times, all that stuff. But what I wanted to say though is this assuming one property per year? So yes, one property per year, Gurav, and he says, how does 1 million change to 1.5 million in 4 years? So yes, that's a fair question. So you're talking 50%. You're talking property 6. Yeah, so you're talking. So that's an overall growth. So 1.5. I would say that there is an opportunity there. We could stratified that in 4 years. So you're talking 50% in 4 years. That's actually not. So that's a little bit more than 6.2%. But we've actually underestimated some of the other ones as well, I believe. So, yeah, just to call that out. Yeah, might as well. But no. So the things to think about here, Joe, is there's many different paths. But I love the simplicity of this portfolio, and that there is opportunities just to keep growing it as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's not going to be easy. And the way you could, instead of sort of saying, okay, you're going to buy these properties, there's other different. You could go down the subdivision route or do the development yourself. Separate to this portfolio. So there's many different paths.
Shit. Sorry, that one. He's right.
He's right.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
right. That number's wrong.
Okay.
But that number's wrong.
I love the transparency though, Joe. Hey, I just explained it away, and you're just like, no, it's not correct. Yeah, transparency.
Okay, cool. It does change. It does well. Okay, so it changed. Okay, actually, this is a really good point. Well, it's not a really good point. It's just a point. So what happens is our value has now dropped. So 6,809,000. But we're planning on. Okay, let's just go to the next slide. What the hell are you guys planning? So why are you buying these properties? Well, what we're doing is we're buying high growth capital value assets at the beginning, and then what we're doing is we're selling down those 4 initial properties. So whatever the value of this I've done it again. But yeah, so property number 1, this is all assuming at the 10-year mark, we're selling down these 4 properties, right? So we're not selling one down in year 1. We're not selling one down in year 2, year 3, year 4. So we're selling them all down, gets to year 10. Now life isn't going to happen like that. But this is how it works from a numbers perspective to get us to our ultimate goal. Gaurav, you're right.
I love Gaurav, man. Like, good. He's been on jump on the YouTube. What I was going to say as well. Let's just say hypothetically, we don't see the type of growth assumed there, and it grows. Let's just say it grows at 5.2%, and you're still able to sell and just keep a little bit of debt. I don't know about you, but if I'm getting, instead of 150, if I'm getting 125 or 130, I'm still pretty happy with that in 10 years. Are you happy with that, Joe? I mean, you haven't hit the 150, but I mean, I can live on 8.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't hit. It doesn't matter, because the value, that end value that we're talking about, doesn't matter because we're holding this property. So these are cash cow deals that we're looking at. So whether
Which
it's
we'll talk about some.
Yeah, whether it's $2 million or $3 million, like if it's $2.7 million or $3 million, it doesn't really matter, because it's all about the cash flow for these assets that it gives us. Hope that makes
I'm
sense.
just laughing I'm laughing at the comments about restumping, and somebody saying that there's familiar situations that other so it must just be a passive building guy. I love that I love that we have these comments flowing in. It just means that people are thinking through. They're not just this is what I love, like the interactivity. People are asking the questions. They're not just sitting there passively taking it all in. So take it all in, ask those questions, drop it as well. And while we're sort of talking, let's go back to subdivision, and then we'll talk through some example deals as well. I think we're going pretty good for time, Joe. We're looking at 50 minutes, mate. We have enough time. We'll talk to this is some of the mechanics of the deals, but I want to address some of these questions. What factors, Amit's asked, what factors consider to determine whether to subdivide and build townhouses versus a granny flat? To me, it comes down
Very good
to
question.
I love that. It's about a feasibility. Well, what is the end? What is the likely end value? You really need to go digging and see, CGT what you like. 100%, Jose. Like you need to factor that in, speak to your accountant and plan that out. Factored in that Joe's actually done it in the background, the calculator. So we've got the tax situation. There is a fancy calculator in Level Up, I believe. I don't. So factors to determine. So I would plug it into a feasibility and understand, well, what is the likely end value? How much is the build? All that sort of stuff. So building the townhouses is likely more of a capital growth sort of play where you've got the opportunity, whereas a granny flat is not likely to help you with the capital growth in most situations. Yes, of course, there's exceptions, and I would argue that's market growth. But some people have said, you can make money from building a granny. I don't know, maybe not, because the costs to build a granny, but let's say that for another day. So I would say a granny is more a cash flow play versus subdividing and build, and you need to run the numbers. Most developments don't stack up. I would say about 90 to 95% of them, they just don't stack up. And just
cool.
Look at this. Read this property development made simple. Liam signed it for me. So anyway, so that's my thoughts. Amit, does that make sense? But and one more question.
That makes sense. But I think, just to hit on this as well, the other factor is there's a thing called in property development called the highest and best use. What is the highest and best use of that land? Now, typically speaking, for me, it always, if it's going to, I'm going to build out on a block or put a granny flat on, always go with subdividing and getting two separate titles, because that's an asset that you can subdivide and sell. Right? You can sell an individual asset. You pay a little bit extra more. You might pay an extra $100,000 or $80,000 for a house over a granny flat. But if your house can be subdivided, generally speaking, subdivide it and split it off and then put a house on it. In WA, for instance, you can own a house, put another house on it, rent it out separately, and then eventually subdivide it later. So that's kind of like a granny flat play. But the thing is that going back to that highest and best use, the way they talk about it is like, great, what is the most amount of money you can make out of that site? It doesn't necessarily mean you should do it. Like I've seen people that I need to knock this house down and build 5 townhouses. Well, that's going to be like 600,000, 600,000, 600. So yes, it may be the highest and best use, but you need a lot of capital. What you should do is actually retain the front house and build 2 houses at the back. Yes, you're only have 3 assets there, but it's the highest and best use for what you can afford right now. So that's just something else to add on. Hope that's valuable.
Yeah, I wanted to. We'll talk to that one. I want to bring this, and then we'll get on to some of the examples, because we do need to talk about that claim that I made. Would be nice if you guys could consider low income earners. By the way, 50 to 70, or this is Marcy. So Marcy, I'm going to be fully transparent. Unless there's a way that income can increase, it is going to be very tough to build this type of portfolio and retire in 10 years. But I wouldn't despair. What I would say is it's not simply about comparing yourself to somebody who's might be earning 150, 200K. It's in saying, okay, great, what can I do with my scenario? And I know that you're 100%. I did listen to your little podcast the other day, and it was great to hear that it was inspiring to hear that you made a way, you found a way, and you made a way. So, sorry, man.
What's this?
It's a little podcast I screenshotted you the other day, because Marcy's going to come on in a couple of weeks and tell us an investor story. So Marcy's come across from Colombia. She was a nurse over there, and now she's turned into becoming a chef in Australia. And she's been able to purchase 2 to 3 properties. So it's going to be a fun story. Crazy. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, Crazy. There we go.
Yeah. Well, the thing to mention is we're doing this in 10 years in this example. This is a very aggressive example. When you're on a lower income, it just takes more time. It takes time. It takes a little bit more growth. It takes a little bit more patience. It means that you can't buy maybe the highest and best growth asset. You need to go to secondary markets that will have a little bit more cash flow to support things, but may not grow as much as the other ones. So yeah, let's jump into this question. Not directly related to the topic, but would love to know if there's any shortcuts to find fair market value of a resi property. CMAs can be dependent on judgment from individuals, in my opinion. Do you want to answer that one, Jef? Or are you frozen? Or am I frozen? Oh, you're not frozen. I'll answer it. Okay, Jeff's frozen, or I'm just in my own world here. Yeah, you need to just look at, so you're talking about comparable sales. You need to get properties that are comparable properties, inferior properties, and superior properties, and get a big list of the properties that are in similar areas of that. So the more sales, the better. Like if we looked at that Frankston market example, there was 300, 400 sales there. Fantastic. That's a whole heap of data there. So just look all around you, 3-bed, 1-bath, and most recent sold. I would also look at the data for how much stuff has moved. So we were looking at an area in Townsville, for instance, and it has grown 3.7% per quarter. Right. So on a $700,000 property, now I'm going to probably butcher these numbers because it was either 600 or 700,000. That was $26,000 of growth in 1 quarter, in 3 months. So you just, yeah, if you're buying in a hot market, you have to just have that balance, because it's not going to, those properties that have gone in the sold section of real estate haven't have been there for 2-3 months. Like it's got to go through unconditional phase. It's got to go through settlement phase. It's got to actually get there to that settlement phase. So the best way for you to find out real value is to call up all of the agents with properties that are under offer. Every single property, have a chat with the agent. Hey, Mr. Agent, how much did this go? 600. What? Really? But all the sold sections at 560, 570, 560. Yeah. And then you call the other one, 600, 590, 600, 590. Great. Yeah, 590, 600 is where it's going to be.
100%. Yeah, like that is the truth, because you're talking a lag between anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks, and sometimes a little bit longer depending. But most properties will settle within 4 to 8 weeks. So that's there's a lag there between when the property is under contract versus when it actually sells and when that gets listed as well. There you go. Josh, should we go back to some examples before we go to one of the hottest spots in Australia at the moment? Maybe even a little bit underwater.
Are we going to finish off the portfolio that we've purchased, or what do you mean
example? We should do that. Yeah, okay. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. So going back to what we're talking about here for this portfolio, what we're doing is we bought 6 properties to a total value of $1,815,000 and around about this is the right number, $2,694,000. And now we own these 2 properties. So we own just 2 properties. So we've bought 6, we've sold 4, and now we only own 2. Now, why would we do that? We would do that because, let's have a look. Let's have a little gander. So what happened is property 1, after capital gains tax, so we're factoring in a capital gains tax discount here. We sold this property. We made $541,000 worth of profit. We then made the second property. We made $351,000 worth of profit. Property number 3, we made $329,000 worth of profit. And then property number 4, we made $521,000 worth of profit, which I hope that all of those numbers put together equals $1,749,000.
You shouldn't have mentioned it, Joe. Somebody's going to do the numbers and tell you.
I've got to do it right now. But
that's what Excel. Nah, it's all right. I'm sure it does.
Yes, I was correct. Yeah. So, yep. That is how much cash we have in the bank after paying capital gains tax, after everything, after agents' fees of 2%. That is how much money we have in the bank after we were buying a property portfolio of 6 assets, letting them grow over 10 years at a compound rate of 6.2%, selling 4 of them. We now have $1.749 million in the bank. Now, one thing that you might realize is that we've been running interest-only loans for all of these loans. So we now retain 2 investment properties here. So we've retained property number 5 and property number 6. So the total debt on those 2 properties is $1.55 million. So what do, guys? We take the $1.7 million and pay down all of the debt on our property portfolio to now have a portfolio worth 2.694 million, when in actual fact, as Gurav said, it is a little bit less than that. It is 1.5.
Does that factor in sale fees, like selling agents, Joe? Do we factor in that?
That factors in. So this factor, the sales cost factors in a 2% sales fee,
That's pretty
and
yeah. I agree with that.
and a marginal tax rate of 45%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about after paying off your fees. So Brendan said, is it a structured sell down, tax effective strategy? So that's where you got to absolutely got to speak to your accountant. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, for me, if you want, depending on how quickly you want to be financially free. But if you're making, I mean, I'm not going to give you public accounting advice, but if you're making over that sort of 180, unless you've got trusts and all that, and lots of people in the trust, it's likely you're going to at some stage in those properties hit the highest marginal tax rate anyway as well. So I mean, I don't know, you're going to have to sit down with your accountant, but I think you've been most conservative in that calculator as well, haven't you, Joe? Like you've factored in probably, I don't know, what was the tax rate, the highest tax rate? Probably
45% marginal tax rate. Yeah, 45.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. Somebody said borrowing capacity.
Capital gains tax discount. So yeah, there you go. So the property value, like, can we just pause for a second? We've got a property portfolio of, let's say, $2.5 million, and we have a net income of $161,000 fully paid off, ready to go. Like by buying 6 properties and waiting 10 years and then selling them down. One of the questions about tax efficient strategy. No, this is definitely not the most tax efficient way of doing it. But one of the things mentioned, good plan. What are the types of final properties you plan to hold and get a 6% net yield? So these are things like
YouTube.
Like the Geelong unit blocks, right? Like that is running at a, I forgot what the net yield is on it. But yeah, we'll be buying these types of assets, or granny flat deals or subdivision deals, like anything that you can to boost up the deal. The point of this strategy was to do it, 1, only residential property, and 2, achieve it in 10 years. Is this the best way to maximize the return? Absolutely not. Is it the most tax efficient strategy? No, because you wouldn't sell them all in 1 year to then transition into it. But if the ultimate goal is $150,000 of passive income, we've done it.
Yeah.
10 years. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's similar to your Coffs Harbour unit block, I imagine, Luke, as well. Like that one looks like a cracker as well. What I wanted to say, I want to address this because I'm sure we speak and we hear a lot of people borrowing capacity stuck with just the second one. So is that after buying? That's where you need to really sort of crunch the numbers and speak to, if it's when you say borrowing capacity stuck with the second one, how many brokers have you spoken to? That would be my first question I'd consider. And at that stage, if you've spoken to 4 or 5, one broker, your existing broker, unfortunately, and this is an uncomfortable conversation. You need to say to that broker, hey, look, I want to grow my portfolio. How do we make this work? Like, what is it we need to do? And if they say, I'm not sure, sorry, we can't, you need to increase your income, then that may be a case because they may only have 5 to 10 lenders on their panel that they regularly send deals to. They may sort of focus on the big 4 banks and maybe a couple of second tier lenders. So it's about expanding maybe that network, perhaps. So I would sort of say, that's the first thing. And if you've then sort of spoken to multiple brokers who've helped people build 5 to 10 property portfolios, at that stage, you need to consider maybe there's a couple of different levers you can pull. If you've got equity, if there's ways, there's a couple of creative ways you can look at it if you've got the deposit side of things. There are going to be ways you can keep buying, but you just need to think of, well, how do you keep moving forward? There's a couple of different paths you can take. You just need to then say, well, how quickly do you want to do it? If you're 20 to 25 years, then you can maybe cool your jets a little bit. If you want to do it in 10 years, you don't really have that time to burn.
Yeah. Spot on.
Residence safest house. And you guys can manufacture value along the way. Love that. So should we? Man, we were going to talk to some examples, but I think we need to talk about the area and then throw to some questions. Maybe. Do you want to? Well,
okay. Well, let's talk about our little property that we have in Townsville. So we're talking about the area of Townsville, and this is the deal that we bought in the Townsville market. So one thing that you're going to see straight away is that it's a massive block. So it's a corner block that
dual
is
access.
Dual access. It's already got a driveway set up thing here, I think. 405 square meters, 880 square meters. And I believe they actually already had an approval in place many years ago. So there you go. It is a 2-bedroom property. So there's no real way to add a 3rd bedroom. So that's not great. Like, it's not a high yield. It's we bought it for $435,000, and we have it rented for $440 a week rent. So that's a 5.2% yield, which is not a lot of money for it. But it's now worth $500,000. So we're happy with that. Then we've got the future value in there.
Yeah, that's and that sort of points to what areas are people sort of looking. Before we go to this show, should we throw to our official sponsor for this session, and then we'll get into this hot market that I'm talking about.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
That's so much quicker, Joe. You have to get back quicker than what we're used to. But all right. So yeah, that's one of the funniest things. They're very creative there, those guys. So, but Joe, do you want me to talk to the fundamentals of Townsville that we sort of have spoken about it somewhat? But
well, I don't think we need we don't need the slides anymore. So yes, talk to me, mate. You talk to me.
Talk to you. Okay, just so you and me, just for you in the slides and about 100 people watching. So no pressure to me, no pressure to anybody, but we should be used to it by now. So no, the fundamentals of Townsville for me and for those people, I'm sure this is probably well versed. So I'll chug through a lot of this, and there's huge infrastructure happening now. Infrastructure, not all infrastructure is created equal. So just be mindful of that, because you want to see things that are going to hopefully retain people and create those jobs in the area. So there is some things that I'm like, oh, okay, it's great they're doing a port redevelopment. That is actually going to create jobs, because they're going to be shipping. I was reading I think it's the largest in North Queensland or something like that. I was reading that today, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it is a huge. There's renewable energy projects. I don't get that excited about that because I don't know how many jobs that necessarily creates. It might create a few. The hospital redevelopment, that's something I really get excited about, because it means that there is population moving there, and you need that sort of to support the growing population. So that's a $600 million investment, which is huge for a town the size of just about sort of 200,000 at the moment. The ADF, so there's big talks about the ADF moving a base up there and sort of running all those training missions. I think it was about sort of 3,000 or 4,000 people don't quote me on those numbers, but and you've got the agriculture as well. So it is known for its agriculture. It might have been hit a little bit recently with that flooding. But the thing that gets me a little bit excited is the sports stadium, the North Queensland Cowboys. They didn't do so well on the weekend. But they've got I think it's a 50,000 seater stadium out there. I could be wrong with that. They've redeveloped it, and it is huge. So they really love their sports. It is a rugby league town, North Queensland, the Cowboys. So they did well. Haven't done well recently, but lost a few players. But no, don't want to. If there's ever a time to talk sport, I will. So that's all that's happening to increase, I suppose, the attractions that people want to go out to. The population as well, which doesn't necessarily correlate to capital growth. So you need to be mindful. It is one data point to look at. It does help, of course, supply and demand. It's projected to grow to 360,000 by 2036. So what you're talking, you might have this all up, Joe. There you go.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, that's a massive, like 2021, here we go. We got 2021, 198, 2,000. And then by 2036, This is a massive, massive jump. What's that percentage wise?
I said almost 100%, close to 100%. You're talking about approximately 92%. Somebody do those numbers for me, because an increase there of about 170 odd thousand. You need to do.
So that's super. That's super. Yeah, increase of 170. So if you look at many other regional places throughout Australia, you will not see a population increase. So what does that mean? Well, they need to support that with employment and infrastructure. So the beautiful thing about Townsville, and this is one of the things I think that is a little bit understated for a lot of people, is like they don't actually understand the area too much, and they can see that it's not a mining town. It's the employment structure, the industries are healthcare, public admin, education, retail, construction, accommodation, food. So it's a diverse economy. It's not just a one-horse town. Some of the more anecdotal things, there's actually another 500 people, 500 ADF guys going. They shut down a plant in South Australia, and they're moving a lot of people up to Townsville because of that. Then we're looking at the supply of new properties. There is going to be, what did you say, 170,000? I forgot what the number was, whatever it was. Then
close to 100,
not building enough houses. Yeah, they're not building enough houses to be able to support that. So 168,000 new people that are coming, they need to be supported. And then they haven't been building the houses, and building approvals has been dropping off for 2023 to 2024. There is only 600 approved. And then in July, year to date from July. So there isn't a massive supply constraint in the areas. So you don't want to be buying in the areas that are more out of town. So we're talking like Rasmussen, not Kelso, what's the other one? Yeah, anyway. So those more areas where there's a whole bunch of land supply that and building approvals that are coming onto the market, a big consideration for that.
You need to be very careful with that flooding, as we saw just over a month ago now. I think it's already been a month. 86.7%.
Yeah, 87% increase. Yeah.
So yeah, you just need to be, and that really stress tested the property in the area of Townsville in, definitely not flood zone, and didn't think. I mean, it's a high set anyway, isn't it? So, but that wasn't even. Wouldn't have been an issue, but it didn't even get near us, I don't think.
No, there was no flooding on that property whatsoever. Nowhere near it. No. It's funny because the more like the expensive areas got hit with a little bit more flooding than the more affordable areas. So it's funny that kind of happened. So the more affordable areas are high and dry.
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite area of Townsville, Joe? Because I promised that we'd. So do you want to sort of talk to? I mean, if you're comfortable doing so, I don't want to put you in a situation where you're uncomfortable. But what's your favorite pocket of Townsville? We're sort of talking, or one of the areas you like. Not saying you should buy there, of course, but
no. I think Townsville is a market that I'm still selectively buying in. So I have a couple of areas where I see a lot of value. And I've done this before. I'm like, yeah, just buying blah, blah suburb. And then people start buying, like people from the group, like we have thousands of people that listen to this, and I'm competing against everyone. So no, I'm not going to tell you my favorite place in Townsville. Okay. What's your favorite place? You tell me.
Maybe I should.
I don't want the competition.
Well, okay. Well, I don't know, because I've mentioned a place and I kind of have an idea. Why don't we look at, because I want to look at one
that's probably for the best, because no one knows what your idea is, mate. So tell us, what's the suburb?
Well, I was going to say Heatley, but I mean that's one that I know is a lot of people look at. So Heatley is a very interesting one. You just have to be quite careful, because there are pockets, and we did that live probably 3-4 months, maybe 6-7 months ago now, with Scotty McWilliams, and he actually specifically called out a pocket of and this is where your boots on the ground, and of course I love to go and visit locations, but if you're not going there, remote due diligence, you need to have these conversations with your expert property manager on the ground, and they'll tell you where they don't want to rent properties. And just be aware, if you buy a property in that location, they might manage it for you, but you might just have a little bit of riffraff floating around, which is not necessarily going to impact the capital growth. It might impact, but what it's going to impact is potentially the rental kind of stability in that sort of pocket or suburb as well. But so what does the data look? What are you looking like plenty of stigma for locals. Yeah, definitely Heatley. I agree. You sort of around that boys' courts. I don't want to disparage it, call out a pocket, but that's a well-known part of Heatley that gets a lot of attention. But what is the data looking like for Heatley, Joe? How does it? I think it's probably pretty hot. Like we're talking single-digit days on market, or is it not quite that?
So, well, let's have a look at the data. One of the things that I think is very important to do for property investors is to understand the housing commissions in the area as well. So not just understand where is good, where's great buying and everything like that. It's like where is all the housing commission pockets? Because if the area is made up of majority housing commission, so what I've actually done is charted out every single housing commission. So if we go into an area like Heatley, this is the Heatley area here, like what you're just talking about. Where was that boys' court? Where is that?
It's near the.
Look at that. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting pocket in there, but that's only got one housing commission. But then you go up here, and the entire street. So I bet there will be areas here where people have bought, this property or this property, and it's literally surrounded by housing commission. So you do have to know the pockets. And look, here's a prime example. Like what you're talking about, Jef, is this only has one housing commission on it, but the area itself has a bit of a stigma and is a little bit rougher than the normal. So just because it's not surrounded by housing commission doesn't say great, go buy there. There's a little bit more in-depth due diligence that you need to do to figure it out. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So we play around on, like, in the group, we have the hashtag platform. Actually, anyone that signs up to the Level Up course gets a free 6-month subscription to hashtag. So let's have a look at the data from the Heatley with you, Jef, so we can all see it together. So one thing that's standing out to me is that it has had a a massive jump up in the past 3 years of capital growth. So 75% capital growth in the past 3 years, which is quite large. 39% in the past 12 months. So if you were buying 12 months ago, you're in a very good position. And then 1 quarter is 5%. So if you're buying a property that's $500,000, times that by 5%, that's grown $25,000 in the past 3 months. That's pretty crazy.
So this I suppose,
a low base.
Yeah. I was going to say this area is likely for those investors that want to see and extract equity. If you're looking, like, in 3 to 5 years, it might slow down a touch. So just be mindful of that. If you're looking for something that's going to see that's not quite, we call them sort of either a cool spot or a warm spot. This is Townsville's an absolute hot spot. And there is some opportunities, like you get them every day. You see those ones that are sort of, if you can get in really fast, build those relationships with agents, then you can absolutely snag a bargain, but you just have to absolutely be able to move fast. And that's where you can really sort of do well. You just have to be mindful of what value is in an area if you're looking to buy in these pockets. And then once you do, you can nail it. Oh, here we go.
And this is days on market are on the uptrend, though, in these areas in the past 3 months. Yeah. So what we want to look at, what you want to look at is the social demographic. Now, this is not the only stuff that you need to do. There's a few things more that you need to kind of look at, but I love hashtag for its visual representation of giving you a good insight overall. So renters to owner is actually quite low. It's in the orange, but it's actually quite low for a lower socioeconomic area, which is good to see. Affordability, it's still an affordable market. People can afford to live there. They're not straining their finances to be able to buy a property there too much.
2 or 3 years ago, man, or was it like an affordability of under 15? Was that 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't buying in Heatley, but we were buying up, and it was just stupid. And the yields were at like 6%, 7%.
We did that live in 2022, Joe. Remember that? Where we did that boots on the ground, and I think my area I chose was Annandale, which I was like, oh yeah, Annandale. Quite liked Annandale at that time.
Annandale's done well.
I mean, it's more
still like Annandale. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little bit careful because there's a bit of a run through the school kind of in the afternoon with that a lot of schools around there. So just need to be mindful of that.
So we want to look at the supply of dwellings. So not very much stock on market, inventory levels super low, building approvals non-existent. So it's very much a landlocked area. Stock is flying off the shelves faster. The inventory is it's got a little bit of a jump up there, which is an interesting trend to watch. But building approvals just pretty much nothing. The demand side of things, let's have a look. So things might be getting a little bit more interesting. So for the past. It's been trending down massively for the past however long. Now, this jump up of 76 days was in January and February. I would be thinking that this might be a bit of a factoring in Christmas and then factoring in the flood that we just had. So I would want to see a couple bit more data points to understand where it's going.
Look at that slope, though. The slope is only going one way at the moment.
Well, yeah, at the moment. And you can see that they have these consistent jump ups for some reason. So we'd want to investigate that a little bit. It might be because there's not that much data. Vacancy rates, let's have a look at these. Slight trending up at 2%. Anything below 3% is a good market. Anything further down, 1% is just ridiculous. But 2%, so it's a kind of under a stable market. So it's not incredible, but it's not terrible either.
It's crazy though. Like a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, anything between that anything under 3% was considered pretty good. And now when you're starting to see everywhere under 1%, it's like, oh, if it's not under 1%, what are you talking about? But it's just crazy how our perceptions change, and they change quite quickly as well. I suspect we'll start to go back to. I mean, it depends on how many people we get into the country, of course, with immigration, but it will start to get maybe stabilize in that 1% to 2%, maybe get up above that 2% as across a national average, perhaps over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I want to, I'm just cautious of time. So I want anyone that has any kind of questions for us. I feel like we were going down a path of talking about our portfolio, and then we just started randomly talking about Townsville. So,
well, I said it was all on the dance card, Joe. I did it you've got to read the post. So I
read the dance card. I danced. Yeah. I danced with you. But if anyone has any questions, throw them in there while we talk to this bit, and we'll get to them if we can.
One thing that to take it back to, I feel like I'm a bit of Townsville groupie, but I'm not trying to seem like that. But Mr. Michael Webster, who he's often quite posted in the group, so I do see him regularly do this. So he's looking for deals up that way. So he's finding it a bit tough, which is fine. It's all about sort of that persistent building. He said, "What is it on Domain, Joe? What is it? Yeah, bring this up." And I've got a rental opportunity, but can't see recent sales to justify.
So what he's done a renovation, and
there's a deal because he's still looking for a property. So
he's looking for a renovation deal. So I mean, based on that, but this is the thing: the median price doesn't tell you jack. Really, you need to just look at the comparable sales.
And it's only 35 as well. So you really need to dive into and look at those numbers. You did a post on median house value the other day, didn't you?
Median house don't mean jack. So let's have a look. For a house, 3 bed, 1 bath, and then we want to throw in plus 500 meters just so we can get something that's not brand new and rubbish. So
is this sold or is this not?
Is this just sold? Sale date? Yeah. So we've sold this one, 22nd of Feb, $376,000. One photo.
Like a bit of a reno project.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of water rising up. So that's very interesting. A little gem needs a little work. I reckon it needs a full scale reno. So 485 for a 3-in-1, 515, 515, 665, 475. You need a spend and just differentiate these as well. Cost of is it high set? Is it low set brick? This property is ridiculous. Why is that so cheap?
Whereabouts in the suburb is it though, Joe? Just maybe overlay with the is it in
no housing commission around it?
Okay. You'd have to check flood zones then. But David Oliver and he's saying 2021, 2022, get in early. I mean, to some extent, if you're buying in 2023 and even 2024, we saw there's a good amount of growth, but it just comes down to, well, are you looking to keep that for 15, 20, 25 years? If you're looking to do that, then yeah, maybe that's yeah. But if you're yeah, depends on your brief. As we spoke about Matty a couple of weeks ago, that was a cracking session. So
What?
yeah, flood zone touches the flood zone. So I
It's
would
not
be
even
yeah.
in a flood zone. That's a very
Well, yeah, I know. This is where Townsville flood mapping. I'd show. Yeah, I when it's only. I know it's yeah.
no.
You
I would these sellers are now my best friend. This is how do you find amazing agents to deal with? You find these amazing agents by looking at the stuff that is sold incredibly cheap.
think there's a story. Got to be a
There's
story.
a story. There's a story there. Yeah, I now have two brand new best friends. Right, like that's how you do little trick, little taste.
Here we go. Have you looked at New South Wales, Hunter Valley? What's your thoughts? Transition to renewables industry, currently coal mine dependent, close to Newcastle. So it's a little story. So tell my own story. 2016, Tenambit, which is I bought a place up there for free. Was it 315? I think it was. Yeah, and now it's probably 650 whatever. Yeah, 650 whatever it is around that 3x1. Nice. We did need a bit of reno work. So my thoughts. It's a huge area, so it's hard to generalize based on like the Hunter Valley it's like Wollongong. It's probably even bigger than Wollongong. So we're talking Hunter Valley specifically. Are we talking Newcastle? Like I know they're different parts. So Tenambit is kind of out towards that Hunter. I haven't looked all that much recently, but yeah, I do see it starting to come up. Look, it's a little bit outside of Sydney. If I had my pick of the two, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But if I was to pick between there and Wollongong, maybe I'm a little bit biased towards Wollongong because I live here and I love it. But no, has that come across your desk recently, Joe?
No, not recently. There's no comment. Got nothing to say about that. Unfortunately,
plead the fifth. No, my thoughts are regional New South Wales. I haven't looked too close at the data yet, but that's something that I do need to look at regional New South Wales data because maybe it's starting to bubble along a little bit. But I think Victoria, Melbourne, but yeah, Joe's not.
Yeah, it hasn't been popping off just yet. So you got to look at the balance of supply and demand and how many properties are available and what's going on, and look at the days on market and trending down and all that good stuff, and you'll start to see that it's not that crazy. But look, long-term value, absolutely. Like you know, the average property price is property growth is 7.2. Please pump Coffs Harbour.
Maybe not. Yeah. Good old Coffs Harbour. Also, Maitland, Singleton. Yeah, I have heard a lot of that sort of coming along. I just don't. I don't know. I'd have to dig a bit deeper because I'd just be. Yeah, we need to do an analysis on it. So somebody's asking about this. The brief session that was with Matty a couple of weeks ago. I will find that session now and drop it in. So Joe, if you see any interesting questions, let us. You pick a question or two, Joe, if you want, and then we can bring us home.
I don't have any. There's not that many questions.
There's heaps there, man. Jeez. Anyway, do you want? Okay, so here we go. Oh, David Oliver. This is the question that, this might be a bit unpopular with some people, maybe. He said, do you think it's investors who are pumping Victoria and not the owner-occs? Depends on what you read, David Oliver. It comes down to, because if you read, I'm hearing there's a lot of owner-occs getting in. But then you see anecdotal stories of investors starting to come back. So because there were articles circulating last year that there was record numbers of investors selling. So leave the investors, the last investor out of Victoria turn the light off kind of story. When they say that about Melbourne or Victoria, I don't get it because there's hundreds of thousands of investors in Victoria.
Well, the thing is, you got to look at the old data, right? Like back during COVID, we weren't buying in Victoria. We weren't pumping up Victoria as a place to be because South Australia, Queensland and WA were the hot tickets because there was that exodus from Victoria. So yes, investors have been leaving Victoria in droves because they made it very unattractive as an area. But that's now starting to shift. But again, it's the same as Townsville, right? Like, oh my gosh, Townsville, everyone needs to go there. And then, and no, you shouldn't be going there. You shouldn't be going there because of the floods and the this and the that. And then people go out. Like the news is so old. But yeah, we're doing a boots on the ground trip actually in the next couple of weeks down into Victoria. So we will we'll keep you posted with what is happening. I'm seeing a lot of people that can't, like a lot more demand than there was before. And it's showing up in the data. Now it's got to confirm it all.
Yeah, and I think you still need to be a little bit careful of some land supply areas and all that sort of stuff.
Definitely.
I'm not saying
Yep.
just be mindful.
Super
But no,
careful.
so I think there's one or two more questions that might have popped up. Here we go. How do you? This isn't a great one. Okay, how do you choose which properties to sell when planning to sell 4 of the properties in the portfolio? I mean, that is a cracking question. Joe, do you want to go at that first? Do you want me to go at it?
You go at it, mate. You're already talking. You're ready.
Well, yeah, okay. So for me, it comes down to what you want to achieve. So if you've got a lot of debt, and this is interest only that we've modeled that out. So, but if the debt, and it comes down to what's going to help you achieve that goal? Is it where's the passive income coming from? Because those other ones, we could clearly see that those ones that were the unit block. And also, I'm trying to remember, it's probably a granny flat deal as well. Those ones have the better cash flow. So naturally, it comes down to what you want to achieve. If you've already hitting that passive income goal, and I had this discussion with somebody earlier today as well. They said, well, what if you're getting 500K capital growth from the portfolio? Like, why are you and it's neutral? Why are you bothering selling? And it's like, well, what do you want to achieve? Like, if you like, I don't want to be morbid, but in 5 years' time, we could be gone. Like, not Oz property, but I could wake up tomorrow and you just don't want to. So if you've got that opportunity and it fits your brief and it fits what your ultimate wealth goal, it's not to say you can't still see growth from property, because those properties you own will still grow. They may not just grow. The portfolio is not going to grow. So that's what I think. I chat to my accountant and look at the tax numbers. Maybe the broker, if I'm because maybe I sell some and I'm going to buy some more. So maybe there's strategic selling in there. That's the way I think about it. Maybe I've danced around that question, but what are your thoughts, Joe?
I think you need to slow down a bit. You are talking very fast and getting very excited about this question. You're jumping all over the place, but I think there was some good quality points in there. So thank you for sharing that. How do we choose which properties to sell when planning to sell all 4 properties? So it kind of becomes a part of the strategy, right? Like if we're selling down 4 properties, well, these were the growth focused properties that we put in our portfolio specifically to focus in on the growth. We've gone through a full property cycle and we now know we're in a market where we're going to sell. So a property, an example is, we were buying in WA for $400,000. Those properties now are worth $800,000. Why? Because we timed, got in at the right market, did it well, did the things that we teach people in the Level Up course, by the way, and was extremely successful. Great. But those properties are now 400,000. They're now 800,000. Can that house now go from 800,000 to 1.6 million? Can it now double again? It's going to be very unlikely that it can keep doing these 20, 30% compounding growth. So it might be in the stage of the cycle where, great, if I sell down this property, it's going to allow me to jump into a different market. If I sell one of these properties, that might allow me to do that. Or do I need to sell 2 to be able to do that? So it does become a big number crunching situation for us saying, well, what do I need to do next? Do I need to go and buy a Victoria deal, or what is it? Sorry, Jeff.
I was going to say, what's the ultimate wealth goal as well? And what is your property strategy? That's what it all comes back to. If you've got 20 to 30 years to do it and you've got a reasonable amount of income to keep going, maybe you don't need to sell any of them. But we are, of course, talking about financially free in 10 years here. So, of course, that's where the question comes from. But no, it's just interesting. And the other thing I'm sort of starting to see, I'm seeing a lot more emails from real estate agents in WA telling me, they've got all this off-market, pre-market stuff coming up. So it's just interesting. I'm not saying that that's the kind of the red flag, because listings in REWA are still at sort of that 5,000 mark, which is well below, which is just under half what it normally sort of is for a balanced market in WA. So I'm not saying it's absolute panic stations, but like it's starting to tick up, and it's about 20% higher than last year for a very low base in terms of those listing numbers in WA, as an example. So there's many kind of factors to look at. Well, how it fits into your overall ultimate wealth goal, and also what is that market actually looking like now? Is it starting to sort of taper off? Which I think I know not a lot of people look at.
I don't think WA is tapering off just yet either. Like, I think if you
have you seen the daily indices though for CoreLogic? Man, it's starting. No, man, I'm not saying I don't look at the daily numbers all that often, but I look at the 30, the 60, 90 days. Still opportunity there, but it's not going to do. It's unlikely to do that 20% 2026. It may, but unlikely.
Yeah, no, it's not going to do. Yeah, it's not going to do 20%. But even if it does 10%, that's an incredible rate to get it. If it does 15, 18%. So
Sorry, John,
it's
taking up
coming
your
down
time.
off a big base.
Time is money. Money's time.
Tommy is mine. Time is money.
Before we go into, I want to, if people have gotten value from the session and have learned how to help the principles of building at 150K or being financially free in 10 years, if you on your favorite podcast, drop us a like and drop us a rating as well, because that we want to get this information out to as many people as possible. So let's give us a like and all that sort of stuff. Joe, throw over to you, and then let's wrap us up.
Hey, I'm ready to wrap this bad boy up. We have done it. We just showed you guys how you can buy 6 properties over 10 years, selling 4, paying down the debt, turning that into a $1.7 million, turning that into a $2.5-ish million property portfolio that's going to give you $161,000 of passive income. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. The reason why we sold them all off so quickly was because we had a 10-year time frame. To be honest, in 10 years, I'm going to be in my 40s. I'm not going to be selling off. I still want that capital growth. Things are still going to be growing. I'll be happy with that. So you probably won't sell them off. You'll probably hold them to go through another cycle. But there's so many different variables. But if that was the ultimate goal, you will be able to get there. And all of these things, we go into depth in the Level Up Property course. So if you guys want to get access to that, book in a call. The first 20 people that sign up will get direct access to Joe Tucker and Jef Miles, and we will help guide you through your property investing journey. So it is a mentorship. There is a bit of mentorship inside of it, and you'll be able to get access to us to help you do what you need to do, along with getting access to all of the courses and material and calculators and spreadsheets to be able to crunch this stuff. But it doesn't take much. Like there's a lot of stuff in here, but it doesn't take a lot of time. What's that?
Over 30 hours, and I'm adding. We're going to add more material to it, but we've got our first group mentoring, and people are already excited about it. The group mentoring with Jef and Joe next Tuesday night, but that's for people. Yeah, Greg's going to be there. He's seeing us there. Gee,
yeah, boys,
love a bit of Greg. So Joe, where do we go to from here?
Maybe we wrap it up. Say thank you very much for tonight, guys. It's been a wonderful trip. How do you want to end it?
Let's go and build we're already building a 150K passive income portfolio with the Oz property portfolio. Let's go and buy that next deal. Sounds like we're already working something. We have to talk about this, Joe. You have to tell me more about this stuff. But no.
Let's go level up. See you guys later. Let's go buy a property.